Carrie Kennedy, and my husband Brent and I have a 5-year-old daughter named Reese. And when Reese was 7 days old, she was diagnosed with Down syndrome. And I remember as her parents, Brent and I, one of our biggest fears was, would she be able to verbally communicate her wants and needs to us as she grew older.
My name's Jason Collier, and I have a son named Will, who's 15 in May, and he went to the Lexington Speech Center from time he was about 3 until the time he was about 7 years old. Will has a lot of developmental delays and actually has a chromosome deletion, and we had been through several speech therapists, OT, PT, etc., and couldn't really find a fit for him for speech. And so when he was about 3, we ended up, someone referred us to the center, and it was the best thing that ever happened. At that point in time, he had about a 5-word vocabulary, and within 6 months of working with Megan, he hasn't stopped talking since.
So Reese came to the Lexington Hearing and Speech Center when she was 2 years old, and I remember the day that we dropped her off. It was one of the hardest things ever as her parents to walk out of that building. But looking back, it was one of the best decisions that we have made for her future. The structure and discipline and emphasis on speech that the center provides has enabled her to flourish as an individual and enabled her also to communicate with her family and society.
When we first started with Megan, she really took an interest with Will, and it was a challenge for her. And there were days she was frustrated as much as he was and as much as we were at the end of those sessions. But she really she wouldn't give up. Once they connected, it kind of snowballed quickly, but just picking him up and being able to communicate with him, whether it was just 3 words of what did you do today or whatever, was just a huge plus, because that was our biggest fear was, okay, well, are we even ever going to be able to talk to Will or have conversations with Will? So that just made a huge improvement of us even being, seeing light at the end of the tunnel and being able to keep finding everything that we needed for him.
One of the biggest compliments a mother recently told me at the center was they had noticed the progress that Reese had made from a speech and maturity standpoint, and that she was glad that her typical child was in class with Reese because he was really learning from her. And just that positive, inclusive environment has meant the world to us, and I think it just sets children up for success as they enter into whatever school they'll be going to.
So Will, he's gone through a lot of different stages, and he went through, the Star Wars and all the different movies and things as a child. But about 8 or 9 years old, he really got fixated on sports, which has been great for me as a father. So we spent a lot of time watching sports, going to sporting events. We go to all the UK football games, a lot of the UK women's basketball games. He's become an encyclopedia. He knows every player in the NBA, their number, what team. He knows all the mascots. Those type of things, and being able to have that dialogue with him and interact and share those experiences with him is a huge thing for me, especially as a father. Because of his love for basketball, and he can't play basketball, so to speak, on the team, we reached out to Coach Pack and just said, we think Will would really enjoy being on the team as a manager. It started off with him maybe being a water boy or something, but he really enjoys the X's and O's of it more. So Coach Pack's been wonderful to him, and they now call him Coach Will. The players are wonderful, treat him just like he's one of the players on the team. He calls them his brothers, and he's just as much a part of the team as anybody else. So it's just been a really great opportunity for him to be really a part of the school.
Well, I know my husband Brent and I would just like to say thank you to all the staff at the Learning Center for your support and commitment to not only Reese, but all of the children. We would also like to say thank you to the donors, because we know without your support that all of the services and programming that the center offers isn't possible. And I would just encourage anyone that is interested in Lexington Hearing and Speech to support the center, because they offer phenomenal services and programming for all children.
Lexington Hearing and Speech has had a huge impact on our family, and especially on Will. So much so that when about a year or so after he started there and we saw the progress that he was making, I was so thankful that I asked to be more involved. What can I do to be involved to give back to this organization? Which started with the golf outing, and then ended up on the board, and then as an officer. And some of the most rewarding years of my life were being involved with that. That's when we went to purchasing the new building, and just it's made a huge impact on us. It's still special to us because if those years hadn't happened or we hadn't found Lexington Speech when we did, who knows where Will would be today. So, you know, for me personally, and for, you know, I have tons of friends that have had children at the school, whether they be typical or not typical. It just is a wonderful place for kids to find a home, to be treated with love and patience, and whatever their needs are, they get met there. So it's I think, one of the best organizations in the city of Lexington.